brother, 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 brother.
Oh, yeah. It is Thursday. Thursday, February 9th. Welcome back to another episode of the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. I'm Ryan.
I'm Angelo.
And this is the Impact Power Hour. Just got done, finished watching Impact this week. And going to give you our thoughts, the rundown of the show, and what we liked, what we didn't like, and yeah.
I'm not going to give you all my thoughts. I'm going to give you my thoughts pertaining to Impact Wrestling.
Oh, I thought we were going through all our thoughts that we've had all day.
Yeah, might be here a while.
and that's why it's now the Impact 24-hour hour.
Yeah, just a live stream 24/7.
Yeah, just of our rambling thoughts. For those of you new here, welcome. Make sure to follow us on Twitter if you enjoy us, at Deep Six Wrestling. It is wrestling without the G at the end. I've been doing live tweets of Impact the last 2 weeks. So you can follow along that way as well. Also follow us or subscribe to us on YouTube at the Deep Six Wrestling Podcast. We do throw up our episodes on there as well as on basically every major podcast platform out there at this point. So if you don't want to subscribe to a podcast, you can subscribe to the YouTube and listen to it on that instead if that's easier. So yeah. With that being said, all the housekeeping out of the way, I guess the one bit of news that came out this week for Impact was that Fightful reported that Impact had picked up Deonna Purrazzo's extra year option. So she is signed now until January of 2024. So say that's a big keep for Impact, a good keep for them.
Yeah, I think on both sides it's a good deal, for Deonna and Impact, for her to kind of continue her run here, and for Impact to get her for another year to continue to establish the women's division. We see that the ceiling's the limit for sky's the limit for Deonna here, and I think right now, and what we see in this week's episode, they're trying to keep her pretty fresh. They're not trying to rehash old stories necessarily, so I think that's pretty good, and they're going to show some different character development this week with her too.
Yeah, I was going to say that we'll get into what happens with her this week, but definitely a different side of what we're used to from the Virtuosa. So it'll be interesting to see what lies next for her. But yeah, agreed. I think this is a good signing or a good keep for Impact, and definitely I think this is a way that, the wrestling landscape changes every few months, let alone a year. So it'll be interesting to see where all the different promotions stand in a year's time, and if she wants to stick around in Impact, if she thinks the sky's the limit somewhere else for her, we will see. So yeah. With that,
I guess
said,
we could bring up Cardona copywriting.
Oh yeah. So Matt Cardona, Matt Cardona a few weeks ago, like early January, filed a trademark for Zack Ryder, which got everybody speculating that he was going to be coming into the Rumble.
Especially knowing, Chelsea Green was in the Rumble. So it's like, okay, maybe he's going to be out there for the men's. And that didn't happen. So it's like, okay, this trademark seems strange, right? Is he coming eventually?
Yeah. We've been talking about how, Cardona's keeps on getting signed for all these indie dates. So it was kind of weird that, he's still going for this trademark. Well, he said that he has dropped the trademark claim because WWE had reached out and said, hey, if you keep on going with this, we are going to go after you in court for it, for infringing on our trademark for it. And Cardona said, that's not worth it. He wanted to do, it seemed like a cinematic match of Matt Cardona versus Zack Ryder, which, knowing him, would be unique and interesting. But yeah, if you're not a multi-billion-dollar corporation. You're probably not trying to go up against another multi-billion-dollar corporation.
Yeah.
In court. So definitely sucks for him that he couldn't get his licensing for or his trademark for something that he had a major role in WWE. I don't understand why WWE wouldn't want to just be like, whatever. Clearly they gave up on it for Santino Marella, who's now Santino Marella everywhere.
Yeah, that one's interesting. Unless if he had that, I feel like he didn't have that trademarked before WWE, so I don't know why.
Yeah, because and it's at least to me, it seems clear that he didn't have it, because when he was appearing in Impact last year for the few commentary dates that he did and one or two backstage segments, he was just Anthony Corelli. He was just himself. And I think he then NWA teased him as that he was going to be showing up as Santino Marella. Then he showed up in Impact as Santino Marella. So it definitely seems like something changed, and he was able to, bring that over. Whereas Zack Ryder,
more interesting negotiating when you're not a full-time wrestler, and Cardona is a full-time wrestler, so that could be part of it too. It's like, hey, and it's like Fandango. They're not going to give Fandango his name unless he became basically retired, just for autograph signings, and that's fine essentially. But that's kind of where Zad. He's going to be a TV character, but maybe wrestle, like he said himself, a couple times a year.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. It stinks that but we know WWE really likes to keep those trademarks that they have. They're very into trademarking people instead of allowing the people to trademark themselves. So interesting. And we'll see what happens next. On to our episode. Starting off with BTI, we had Raj Singh versus Speedball Mike Bailey in everybody's dream match. As commentary pointed out,
it was a first time match.
Yeah, it was a first time ever match, and every time that Speedball Mike Bailey is in the ring, you never know if it's going to be another match of the year contender. I don't think this is going to go down as a match of the year contender, but it was probably Raj Singh's best match in a while.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think Mike Bailey's getting Bryan Danielson-esque workhorse vibe for Impact Wrestling right now. He's putting on good matches with pretty much everyone.
Yeah, I feel, and that's one of those things where, if you're one of the best in-ring performers in the world, you're going to get those matches you're going to make anybody look good when you wrestle them.
Right.
So this went longer than expected, but the main focus was not on can Raj Singh beat Speedball Mike Bailey. Obviously, he wasn't going to. But the main focus was at the end of the match, Speedball Mike Bailey grabbed a mic and accepted Jonathan Gresham's open challenge for no surrender that he laid out last week on BTI. So yeah, we've got another match for no surrender and another match that could be a really, really solid match for Mike Bailey to notch in his cap this year.
Indeed.
I guess speaking of that, there is one other thing that impacted this week that is newsworthy.
Talk about Iceman Intel.
No, it was for Mania weekend. They've announced that they are doing a co-branded show with New Japan, and they announced the first 3 matches from the show, and all 3 of them sound like bangers. This is following off of Multiverse of matches last year, which wasn't so much Impact and New Japan. It was more just Impact and anyone who wants to show up. This one is strictly Impact versus, or not Impact versus, but Impact and New Japan. And the first 3 matches that have been announced are Moose versus Jeff Cobb, Kushida versus Josh Alexander, and Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey. All three of these matches just sound absolutely fantastic. And
Yeah, just from three card matches, that's a great card.
Yeah. So that will be happening on the 30th of, or the 30th of March. It is a Thursday night, not a Friday night like me and Pat originally thought. It is a Thursday night show. It is also the same day as Game Changer Bloodsport, Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, which Mike Bailey also has a big match in, where he's facing Kota Ibushi in Ibushi's first match in like over a year. So
yeah, isn't that ridiculous?
That's just crazy that you're having two major matches in the same day. Apparently Ospreay is also doing two matches that day. He's wrestling or been announced for a match earlier in the day as well for another promotion. So yeah, I mean, they're two of the biggest workhorses in wrestling at this point. And it'll be interesting to see which one comes in stronger and in better shape out of their first match of the day. But I mean, this isn't new for Mike Bailey. Last year, I think at one point he was doing 3 matches a day during the Mania week, since he did 7 in 3 days or 7 in 4 days. So crazy stuff.
Right.
Absolutely crazy. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I guess we can talk about Iceman Intel now. And it was basically just George Iceman saying that he's been hearing rumors backstage, and not the backstage that you're thinking of, but backstage, because he's hearing rumblings that Rosemary's father, the Dark Lord himself, is upset with her, and that he's coming for her, and there's gonna be consequences for her not keeping him happy. So that was something. I don't know how he's got sources in the undead realm or in hell, but apparently he does. And
yeah,
that's our George Iceman. Yeah.
Oh boy.
At least he's giving us scoops and not like like he was last year, where he was just, hey, I heard that people don't like this person, or last week this happened. Wonder what's going to happen
He was working on a big story. I don't know if we ever got finished to that.
I don't think he did. I just remembered that it was like an 8-month-long thing that he was just in sunny Florida working on a story.
Yeah,
I don't think it ever happened.
I don't think there was a story.
Impact just like, hey, George, go to these random locations in Florida. I've got a scoop for you.
Yeah, just tell people you're working on a story.
Yeah. Fucking Iceman. This would lead us to the main show. It starts off with a video package highlighting the Matt Cardona and Joe Hendry feud thus far. And it's announced that Joe Hendry versus Matt Cardona for the Digital Media Championship is going to be main eventing tonight. And then we get Matt Cardona arriving at the arena, and the staff member who's checking people in doesn't recognize him. He says, I'm in the main event, Joe Hendry versus Matt Cardona for the Digital Media Championship. And he's like, I'm sorry, follow me. And he leads them to his private locker room, which is just some chairs and a table with shrimp cocktail laid out. That's got some sheets hanging around it.
Cardona's pretty ecstatic about it.
Yeah, Matt Cardona is so happy. He goes to try to eat some shrimp, and the staff member says, enjoy the shrimp cocktail, Mr. Hendry. And he's like, yeah, I'm not Joe Hendry. I'm Matt Cardona. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I led you to the wrong place. Here, follow me. And they go again for a walk, and it ends up going to the storage closet or storage room with all the chairs and tables. And Cardona is not happy about this. He's like, where's my shrimp cocktail? Where's my private room? And the door closes in his face. And this would begin Matt Cardona's night from hell, basically. And we'd get more and more of this throughout the night. After this, we go into our first match. It is the first of 2 qualifying matches for the Fatal 4-Way #1 contenders match at No Surrender for the Impact World Championship. It is Brian Myers versus Dirty Dango. This, I've got to say, I don't remember hearing Dirty Dango's theme before, but this is a bop, absolute banger of a theme. We've got him grinding and twirling his hips and dancing all over the stage and on the Titantron. Just great stuff by Dirty Dango. Crowd's really into him because, he's Dirty Dango. Let's get weird. Let's get in our white Vans that we have on our T-shirts, which I still don't understand why that's a T-shirt, but
true,
it is. Anyway, this is a match of 2 veterans who, I mean, if you said, hey, what's on Impact tonight? Like anytime in the mid to early 2010s, you'd be like, oh, this makes sense because it's 2 old veterans from WWE. And that's what this was a good match. It's 2 guys who, they know how to work really well. Brian Myers is heavily underrated in my book by wrestling in-ring standards. And Dango just, when he's focused, and a focal point is not just, his comedy stuff. He's pretty good in ring. And I thought this was a good match to start off the show. Was it as hot as last week's? It wasn't as hot as last week's kickoff, but this was still fun. We've got Dango hitting a Phoenix Splash, getting a near fall. Down Dirty Shuffle or Dirty Dango Shuffle or something like that was another move towards the end of this match that commentary acted like he should have kicked out, or Brian Myers shouldn't have kicked out of, but he did. And then Brian Myers gets a roster cut, and Dirty Dango loses 1, 2, 3, and Brian Myers is the first man into the Fatal 4-Way at No Surrender.
And my hot take is still intact that Dirty Dango will not win a match in 2023, a singles match.
Yeah, I mean, hey, based off of what happens later, I think we know who his long-term feud is. And I think he's going to get a win in that feud.
I think he could get a win in that feud if that's what happens. But you know what? I don't think the other person was interested. So we'll see.
That's fair. After this, we got into the rundown of what else is going to be happening on this show. And overall, I mean, I think this was looking like it was going to be a very strong show just based off of how many goddamn matches they announced. But this is not a match. Next up, it is Giselle Shaw walking backstage and ruining people's dinners.
All right, so one man's dinner was black beans.
Yes.
A bowl of black beans.
Yes.
That was his dinner. I just wanted to say that like that guy was just sitting there and eating black beans.
Oh, I thought you were going to mention how like everybody just had like different types of beans.
Well, the one guy, well, I guess, yeah, the one was like, well, she had beans thrown in her face. But the next guy where she was pouring water in, at least it was like a.
Yeah, there could have
anything in
been
the
some.
salad?
I don't know. There might have been beans underneath the salad.
There might have been some beans in the salad. Yeah.
yeah. I was very confused about that being
Yeah, like God
somebody's
forbid
meal.
you want to like get real food for people.
It also didn't look like it was a large portion of beans either.
No, it was like
It's like a cup.
black beans.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you're when you're just like a local competitor who's backstage, that's all you can afford.
Get the scraps to cater.
Black beans.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. So yeah, she just pours that on the table. She pours water in some guy's salad. Deonna Purrazzo comes over and is like, hey, you know, I get you want to call yourself the Black Widow of Impact, but, you know, you crossed the line when you mentioned my best friend and her leaving. And, like, while this is going on, Giselle Shaw is, goes and grabs a bowl of either chili or refried beans or something, brown bean related. Jay Vidal is calling out Deonna for interrupting Giselle's destruction of dinners. And as Giselle tries to pour the beans onto Deonna blocks it and pushes it back all over Giselle's face. Santino Morello comes in and interrupts, calls her disgusting for wearing beans, and says that no surrender, Deonna Purrazzo versus Giselle Shaw will happen. Before he comes back, tastes the beans off of her and says it needs more salt.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. That, like we said, it's interesting that we're getting a different look at Deonna here. She has not been a face in Impact.
Yeah, that's just the exciting part about this is like she's gonna play the face character here for a very unliked Giselle Shaw. So
yeah,
I mean,
it should be a good match. Giselle's been having good matches since she's had like this singles run. That's really like this weird singles tag run where she just joins tag teams, but in between there she has good matches as a singles wrestler. So yeah, this should be another really good match. After this, we get Angelo's segment of the day. It is the Good Hands cutting a promo as they come out for that cheap heat.
Yeah, lots of cheap heat. John Skyler ripping the crowd,
which they wrestle in about 50% of the time.
They must be learning their work from the best, Bully Ray, the king of cheap heat.
Oh man, Bully Ray when he was here in this must have been coming hard.
I mean, he's teaching these good hands. So all the tricks of the trade he knows. Calling your state a cesspool.
And the skin tag of America.
Yeah. What was the transition?
King of appendages.
And then
it was people keep calling us the Good Hands, which I thought that was their name. Like it's their Titantron, it's on their gear. It's what Bully Ray calls them. I don't get who they are. But he says, a good hand is a good appendage, unlike how Florida is the skin tag of America. Skin tags aren't an appendage, but
yeah. I don't know.
So they get into the ring. They're getting booed, and out comes the team of Hardcore Country, Mickie James and Tommy Dreamer. Angelo, how happy were you to see Tommy Dreamer wrestling again?
Oh, ecstatic. And then I forgot that he was tagging with Mickie James. I was like really cool. Like, oh, cool.
Up these guys, and then I look up. It's
with Mickie James. Interesting, but you know what? Yeah. I mean, the match was fine.
Yeah,
it was
no.
fine. It wasn't better than
It
fine.
served its purpose.
Yeah, it served its purpose. I mean,
I have one complaint about the whole match, and it's none of the competitors' fault.
okay.
So Mickie James hits the Mick kick, and then Tommy Dreamer gets in the ring, and as he gets in the ring, they just cut to replay of a Mick kick, which was very pointless.
For like a Gronk very rarely does replays.
Like, why was that your spot?
The only thing I can think of is that like somebody must have had an issue setting up the stereo DDTs, and they didn't want to show that, so they were like, we'll just throw in a replay of a Mick kick that we don't even show in a good angle.
No, it was like the aerial view.
Yeah, it was very pointless.
But yeah, I mean,
Mickie is just very like in character, which is fine. I guess I could appreciate that because these days might more have like a personality, but Mickie James is like still smiling and has that like kind of WWE diva feel to her. That's kind of like what my synopsis was of watching her wrestle today with a bunch of guys. Like she sort of like has that kind of feel. She was always a step better than like the WWE divas in terms of wrestling ability of her era, but now there's a lot of great women's wrestlers these days, so she kind of up a little bit, I feel like, but she's still a big name.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we have the stereo DDTs. Hardcore Country picks up the win as they go to celebrate.
Tommy Dreamer was like directing.
Yes.
Specifically.
Yes.
So that was
which was weird.
Yeah, because it was very on camera. It's like Tommy's like, go there.
Go over there. Yeah.
And I'll stand here in the middle.
Slowly walk towards the middle, the ropes. And Bully Ray slides in, hits Tommy from behind, and then slowly turns his cap backwards. So that he's gonna attack somebody.
Yeah, it's the why I oughta stand.
Yeah. Mickie realizes that something has happened. She slowly turns and realizes what's going on, and she starts walking towards Bully Ray, who keeps backing up slowly. And in slides Masha Slamovich, who comes in, beats up Mickie, hits her with the snowplow, and then doesn't do anything else with Bully Ray. So I'm happy. That's all.
They cut it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I'm perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
This is fine. Doesn't mean she's joining the group. Just means that she attacked Mickie James. Perfectly fine. Best possible scenario of the situation. Until next week, we find out like she's changed. She's now the third member of the Good Hands. So.
Yeah. No. I definitely think it was just the setup. Her and Mickie a little more, and I think that's all it's going to lead to, which is perfectly fine. Like you said.
Yeah. Also, I didn't realize commentary pointed out that Mickie James is a co-host of Busted Open Radio. I thought that was just like a special thing that's happening at After No Surrender, that she was gonna be on it. I didn't know she's like an official
I didn't realize
co-host of it. So yeah, interesting stuff. Who isn't a co-host of it at this point?
Yeah, seriously.
After this, we have a video package of Rich Swann running down his time with Impact, his time as the Impact World Champion, pointing out that, his first time as champion coming off of his major injury, that he wins it, wasn't able to ever celebrate with a crowd because of the pandemic, kept on beating big name after big name. I totally forgot that he faced Ken Shamrock for the world title in a world title defense at one point. I totally don't remember Ken Shamrock challenging for the world title. And then talking about how, he got to face Kenny Omega. And it was one of his biggest letdowns of his life because he got his ass beat, as he said, and then he never got another chance at it. He didn't get to use his rematch. He kept on trying to get back to the title situation after Kenny lost it. And then Josh won it, and Moose took it, so he went to try to go for it again. Josh was the one who got the revenge and got the title back and has held it really well. They're still best friends, but it's still really disappointing in his eyes that he wasn't the one to help Impact get the title back. And he still hasn't been able to celebrate with the fans and have that moment with the fans. I thought this was a really strong video package. I thought this explain if you're a new viewer of Impact or didn't watch during the pandemic, this is a great way to kind of understand why Rich Swann should be treated as a threat to Josh's title. It gives you backstory on why you should see him as a credible world championship challenger in general, and it gives you sympathy for him as well. It is two baby faces going at it, but still, you got sympathy on one hand for Rich Swann, and I think that's a good thing going forward.
Yeah. So last week I said Rich Swann winning the 6-shooter was kind of like punting away this whole pay-per-view coming up. But every time Impact does put a guy that I don't think maybe makes sense as the number one contender, they always follow up with a pretty good video package. And this was a good example of that, where they kind of put the pieces together for the audience to show, like, this is why Rich Swann is a good opponent for Josh Alexander right now. And I kind of take my words back. I think this could be a really good match now.
Yeah. And I pointed out on Twitter, I really think that when Impact does any video package really to hype up a big match, I feel like they knock it out of the park normally. Unless you only watch the video package for the first time right before the match on pay-per-view, because normally the live pay-per-view stuff, when they're transitioning from like in the arena to like a video package, the audio just gets messed up randomly because their production value is just not the best when it comes to that. But these video packages, when they do air them on Twitter, when they air them on TV, they just knock them out of the park always. And yeah, it gets you more invested, and I thought this was exactly what it did here. After this, we get the debuting Steph De Lander coming out to cut a promo on Jordynne Grace before their match, talking about how, she's the powerhouse python, powerhouse predator, and she's going to make Jordynne and all the knockouts backstage quiver and shake. And that Jordynne's had a real fall from grace from being knockouts champ to now losing to the new girl on her debut. Jordynne comes out. They have their match. Commentary points out that, it's rare to see somebody outpower Jordynne and back her in the corners and be taller and almost as muscular as her. And I thought that made sense for this match. Really show that, you've got somebody who can kind of stack up with Jordynne in that realm, because that's been Jordynne's whole thing, has been nobody's been able to outpower her. So showing some weakness here. But in the end, Jordynne does fight back. She does outpower the bigger woman, and she does pick up the win. So she's back on track after losing her title to Mickie James. Commentary also points out that Steph De Lander will be sticking around. So it does seem like she is signed, or at least on like some per appearance deal. So that's good. I thought this was a good match to start it off. I don't know what her ceiling is, to be honest. But it's a good pickup. People seem indoor. Yeah.
Yeah, she shows some good in-ring ability. She can hang with
Jordynne, put on a good match with her. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely potential for some more here.
Yeah. Also, commentary pointed out that she's only been wrestling since 2017 is when she started getting into wrestling. And she's already been in WWE and Shimmer. So add Impact to the list. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good get for somebody who seems still very young and still can learn and grow in the wrestling business. After this, we have the Knockouts tag match. Is not for the titles. It is Taylor Wilde and Killer Kelly versus the Death Dolls, who are being represented by Rosemary and Taya in the ring. Angelo, how would you feel the crowd was towards Taylor Wilde in this match?
Don't do this.
I think I heard maybe one person yell,
But
maybe
they
like
just stubbed their toe or something. There was really no interest in Taylor Wilde coming out to the ring. It's a shame. I mean, so I do appreciate that she's trying a different character because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again with expecting different results. She's trying, so I'll give it that, and I will leave it there.
Yeah, I do want to say that there was one really interesting thing in this entire match, and that was she was reading tarot cards the whole time.
Yeah.
To determine when she should tag or try to get tagged in by Killer Kelly. And then she gets tagged in, she does her stuff, and then she tags back out. She picks up the cards again, keeps on going. She refuses to tag back in. She pulls the devil, throws it at Kelly, yells at Kelly, watches Kelly get pinned. I guess this is a heel turn. Nobody cared about this at all. This little thing. There was like maybe three people who. Yeah, there was like maybe like one or two like, oh, when it happened.
Yeah.
But they didn't address this. They were just like, oh, it's like because it moved right to the next thing, which was Father James Mitchell coming out. And I was like, oh, maybe
before we even get there. So obviously the K wins. But we saw Impact Live last year. And one of the things that we noted as a negative was we didn't get to see the backstage segments. So this is, possibly crowd a break here, not just not liking Taylor Wilde, but maybe they didn't even see the whole talk as a team last week.
That's true.
So like they could have just been very confused why this match was happening.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. So yeah, like, that's a good point.
Right. So the crowd might have had no investment. I mean, they could have changed it now with the new setup. It looks like they have. But like the crowd could have had totally no investment in them being a team.
That's true.
And thus, then you're like, what the heck is Taylor Wilde doing on the ropes? Just reading tarot cards and then deciding not to get tagged in. So
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even think of that. After this, so Father James Mitchell comes out. He says he's coming to address Rosemary, but he starts to talk about Jessicka. It's like, you remind me of somebody, but I can't put a finger on who it is, but I'm going to find out. Yeah, I'm going to figure this out. As Taya Valkyrie puts her hands over Jessica's ears to protect her from hearing Father James Mitchell. But Father James Mitchell says that he's been sent there by Rosemary's father because he is Father James Mitchell's boss, and he's upset with Rosemary that she hasn't been thanking him and praising him lately and giving him his respects. So he is going to put a hex on Rosemary and the Death Dolls. And sliding in from behind are Allysin K and Marti Belle of NWA, known as the Hex. They lay out the Death Dolls, all three of them. And it seems like we have our next competitors or challengers for the Death Dolls' Knockouts Tag Team Championships.
So I thought it was going to be Killer Kelly and Taylor Wilde would get a win tonight and a non-title match, and then be the next team up, just out of necessity because there's not really much on the roster. But that's not going to work out. They were going to have them maybe face off again. This is great. Bringing in an actual women's tag team to compete for the women's tag titles. Like, you can't really ask for much better than that. So,
yeah, 100%. It's a good challenge. It's people that Impact fans probably know. Allysin Kay was there as Sienna for a while.
oh, okay.
And Marti Belle was also in Impact for a bit. She was also in one of the Mae Young Classics. So it's people that people will be familiar with if they've stuck with the product for a while. I'm just trying to remember. So as the Hex, they are former NWA World Women's Tag Team Champions. So they held that.
Did they beat the Beautiful People?
No. Velvet Sky is still retired. So you're not getting the Beautiful People reunion. I know you want it. I know you need it.
I need it.
One day, Angelo.
One day.
After this, we get backstage. Kushida has found the Motor City Machine Guns. We have a Time Machine reunion backstage before Chris Bay and Ace Austin interrupt and point out they have 2 titles and maybe they want to go for one of them, but they're not here for that right now. They just want to put everybody on notice that they're still here. Bullet Club is still kicking, and they throw out a challenge, a 3v3 at No Surrender, and I think it was Alex Shelley is like, there's only 2 of you, and Chris Bay is like, oh, you're right. But let me just, you'll appreciate this, Kushida. He just looks at his watch like he's time machine. He's Kushida and how he looks at the clock to see if he's going back in time or whatever. He says that their third person is going to be Kenta, who will be making his Impact debut. That should be a hell of a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah.
We knew
see Kenta.
Yeah, this should be good. Kenta is somebody who they've already announced will be appearing at the Multiverse show at during Mania weekend. So
maybe if I had to guess,
stuff.
maybe he wrestles Sabin or Shelley in a 1-on-1.
Yeah, it seems like he'll be sticking around at least for a while as well. So good stuff. The matches that he can have, really good. You can think of, like you said, Sabin, Alex Shelley, throw in Speedball Mike Bailey because everybody wrestles Speedball at this point. I, again, don't know how long he's going to be sticking around, if it's just going to be these 2 shows, like the tapings and these 2 shows, just because I don't know the New Japan schedule anymore at this point. But since it is kind of free, everything's open again, and he lives in America anyway, who knows, he can just come in whenever he wants. But this is a good way to bring him in. It should be a good 6-way match because Ace and Bay been killing it. Mercy Machine Guns are firing on all cylinders. Kushida's great and Kenta's great. After this, Matt Cardona is dealing with some more craziness going on as he is going backstage and he's got his gear finally. Earlier in the night, he got thrown out of the storage closet because he was complaining about what was it was too small and it didn't smell right. He said he would rather change in the parking lot, so they toss him out there to change. He says he's going after Joe Hendry now before the match. He go to the private room and out walks Brian Myers eating some more shrimp from the shrimp cocktails. And
that's healthy.
Yeah, Matt Cardona is like, what's going on? Why are you in there? He's like, oh, I went to go see what was going on. Joe Hendry treated everybody to shrimp cocktails and drinks and champagne. And out come the random backstage people that you always see, and they're singing Joe Hendry's theme, and Brian Myers has to clap along because it's a catchy theme, as he says. Matt Cardona's night just continues to be an awful one. Also, during this, towards the end of the show, we had Frankie Kazarian confronting Sami Callihan, or at least asking Callihan what he's doing with design. That this, you're a pillar of Impact. Why are you becoming a lackey for this group? Especially like what they stand for. You've never stood for any of this. You're better than these guys. Out come the design, who say anything you want to address with Callihan, you have to run through us first. Callihan just sits on his phone the whole time. And then Big Con steps up to Frankie Kazarian, and it seems like that's going to be a match. And Angelo, did you ever think you wanted to see Connor from the Ascension versus Frankie Kazarian?
Not particularly, but it's fine. I mean, so in the sense that Kazarian came here and said, "I want to wrestle everyone in the roster." I mean, starting with Big Con, okay. I mean, it's fine. We haven't seen much in singles action from Big Con.
Yeah,
like, I can only literally remember the Josh Alexander beating him in 30 seconds. So give it a shot. Let's see what he can do in the ring. Maybe establish the design a little more in terms of that. It's not just Diener maybe as the only good wrestler there. So
hey, Callahan's part of it too.
Yeah, right. Well,
and Angels isn't bad.
No, we know Angels is a good wrestler, but he doesn't he's not going to really beat people on the roster at this point.
Yeah. I wonder if it's
talent-wise, Alan Angels is very good.
Yes, I wonder if they're going to address Frankie Kazarian and Angels both being stalwarts of being the elite over the years and having interactions and stuff. I doubt we get those interactions, but
no, yeah, probably not.
No, I don't know if they have the rights to that.
Yeah.
Main event time, or before we get to our main event, we have the announcement of our matches for next week. 4 matches been announced. They are Kenny King versus Rich Swann, Steve Macklin versus Rhino in one of the other 2 number 1 contenders or qualifiers for the number 1 contender 4-way at No Surrender. Heath versus Eddie Edwards in the other matchup or qualifier. And Chris Bay versus Kushida.
Yeah. We still got some stuff before main event, right? We have the PCO match.
Oh, yes. I skipped over that. Oh, I can't believe I did it.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have backstage, we have Shera and Raj Singh. Shera's stretching out, building up them guns as Eddie Edwards comes in. And says, hey, I have all the faith that you can beat PCO, but, if you could, just, do some extra damage to him. Make sure that he definitely won't make it to to No Surrender. Can't be an issue for me anymore. And I'll make sure you guys get paid extra.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. Just do your worst to them. And they agree. Shera says it's going to be easy. This would then go right before their match. There'd be a little cut because we've got to go to the Swingman hanging out backstage.
Daddy.
And I hope this is the whole reason they got Santino Marella, was so Johnny Swinger can call him San Martino.
Yeah.
And says he's looking in better shape than ever. Asking him how he's been. Hadn't seen him in a few decades. And he's like, oh, I had this deal. But, I think I should just get a title shot now. because I've been doing good, and
because what's it gonna take? We're figuring to throw you like $50.
yeah. And Santino's like, "Oh, I was made quite aware of your deal." And then Dango shows up because he still claims he's the deputy to the director of authority. He says that the request has been denied. Santino says, "You aren't the deputy director of anything," but he is right. You are denied. You haven't won any matches, so you're not getting that shot. Swinger's like, "Oh, I thought this was gonna be easy. I was gonna be fed some ham and eggers like everybody else who goes for titles." But everybody wants to beat the swingman. And Zicky says, "Oh, you can't give up like that. I've got the perfect competitor for you, perfect opponent, and you'll definitely be able to beat him." And then he leaves to go get him. And Swinger's just left in his car, and he's like, "Hey, is anybody give the swing daddy a push? And the one that actually means something around here, daddy." Fucking phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, a great Johnny Swinger skit. I'm all about if we could have weekly Johnny Swinger and Santino Marella interactions.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Two of the best comedy characters of my memory of watching wrestling. So I'm about
I'd agree with that.
More.
I would agree with that 100%.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
After this, we've got the match PCO versus Shera. Honestly, this went by quicker than I thought it was going to go by. I thought this would be one of the PCO looks like he's going to be down and out. He's going to start convulsing on the mat.
They didn't want to stress the point too much because Shera really doesn't wrestle that much on Impact.
That's fair.
He's a big boy, but he's not actually a viable threat realistically. So they wanted to show PCO pretty dominant. I mean, the crowd is so behind him.
It's insane how when they first showed up with Honor No More, I was convinced that this was the goofiest person they could have brought in. Right, nobody would connect with him. He'd be saddled as a comedy person down the right, and just job out. But this man is so over. I would argue he is one of the 3 biggest people that is over in this company at this point.
Yeah, with Joe Hendry.
yeah. I think it's Josh, it's Joe, it's PCO, and I'll throw in Speedball because Speedball's pretty over as well. So top four right. Guys are really over. That is a bizarre. Three of those people make sense, and then PCO is there, and it's just wild.
54-year-old man doing somersaults, and
54-year-old man who just busts himself open probably the hard way on a free TV match. I
love it, fellas.
PCO, like I said, just drives himself into the ring post, busts himself open. He tries to challenge Raj Singh and Shera at the same time at different parts, and he does end up picking up the win with the PCO assault. Good stuff. And PCO is going to no surrender. The last thing that I can think of that we missed here is Trey Miguel is backstage, and he is frightened, Angelo. He's frightened of Crazy Steve. Crazy Steve, he says they tagged Crazy Steve, and instead of the normal people who are just oh, Trey Miguel owns me, he's got the best of me, instead Crazy Steve thinks that that's me feeling or him controlling me. That's not cool. I don't like that. All of a sudden the lights go out, the lights come back on. The screens have Trey Miguel's logo, and then there's just red to simulate blood is falling over the logo while Crazy Steve just laughs, and Trey Miguel just screeches.
This is stuff.
This is great.
It's building, what is just, a member of the roster. No one really thinks too much of Crazy Steve. It's building up a pretty good story for this X Division title match.
Yeah. Again, I think this is probably one of the weaker matches on the card.
Definitely. Yeah.
But at least there's a story that makes sense. It's Crazy Steve. He's tired of Trey cheating to get out of his wins. And you can't cheat a blind person by spraying them in the eyes because he can't see already.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the only other thing then is we pretty much have set up the Kenny King versus Rich Swann.
Oh yes,
match.
yes. So Josh Alexander's backstage cutting a promo. Kenny King shows up and says he's tired of everybody talking about other people and having other people's names on their lips. Rich Swann this, Josh Alexander that. Nobody's giving the respect to the King King. Rich Swann shows up and is like, whoa, like you haven't won anything. Well, why would we be talking positively about you or thinking you as a threat if you don't win any match that matters? You haven't won a qualifier. You haven't won number one contenders match. So why should any of us think of you as a threat? Kenny basically like challenges him to speak one more time, say it to my face, all this stuff. Rich Swann just punches him straight in the jaw.
I will say I've never seen like a sucker punch that's never led into a brawl.
Yeah.
Like I guess Kenny King was smarter because he knew he was outnumbered, but like that's never ever I think happens. Like I can't remember one where like maybe outside of like women's feuds, but like a men's feud where like someone gets sucker punched that automatically usually should lead into a brawl. But this one didn't. Like Kenny King kept his composure.
Yeah.
And said, I'll see you on my time, essentially.
Yeah. I think this is going to be interesting. Clearly, we've got them facing off against each other next week. But I also think this could lead to can Rich Swann beat Kenny King? Or are you going to have some shenanigans? Kenny King pull off an upset and make it a triple threat and no surrender?
That'd be an interesting idea.
Yeah. Kenny King just kind of feels like he just re-signed with Impact for multi-years. I feel like he's over enough that at least on Twitter and like when he does cut promos, people are into it.
Oh yeah.
So just throwing him in there could add an extra kind of little question on what's going to happen. Is somebody going to pin him? Is he going to steal a win? But also, it could just be Rich Swann beats him next week and Kenny King doesn't do anything.
Yeah, that's the likely scenario.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It is in Las Vegas, No Surrender, which is Kenny King's hometown.
True.
So feel like he's going to be on the card in some way. Probably if they don't make it a triple threat match, it'll probably be, him in some random 6-man match, just to kick off the show or something.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So, yeah. Now we can make our way to the main event. It is Matt Cardona versus Joe Hendry for the Impact Digital Media Championship. I feel like this is the most prominent the Impact Digital Media Championship has ever felt.
Oh, no doubt. Like
Joe Hendry's made it a just something that people care about again. It also helps that Impact has changed their stance on this title from where it was originally, it's only going to be aired on special matches if you're an YouTube insider.
Be defended on like Impact Plus type of matches. Like
it couldn't be
the membership insider or whatever.
Yeah, it couldn't be on actual pay-per-views. It was only going to be on pre-shows. So like you automatically were like, okay, well, this isn't like I shouldn't care about this title. Joe Hendry has come in and people care about him. People care about the title because his feuds are fun. And they're main eventing a show with the title, which is totally different than what we've been used to for the title. Right. You can hate the name still because it's a fucking mouthful, but it's at least feels like a mid-card title again. Instead of just like a really bad knockoff of the 24/7 title where it just doesn't matter at all. where it's just like a toy, basically. Now it feels like something that people actually want to go after. Cardona comes out first, is looking focused. He's growling. He's looking serious. Hendry comes out. He cuts his pre-match promo, talking about how great he feels because he beat Dancing Moose, and now he's going to beat Matt Cardona, also known as Edge's bitch. Crowd starts chanting Edge's bitch. And then the bell rings. Matt Cardona immediately hits radio silence. And I was like, oh, man, they really gave him the shittiest day just to take it all out on Joe Hendry for a quick win. Nope. Joe Hendry kicks out at 2. Good near fall. The match continues. They start brawling on the outside for a bit. Matt Cardona is in control for a while. Then Joe Hendry takes over because of his power. He starts bringing it to Cardona. Cardona gets backed up into the corner at one point. He pulls the ref in between them. Hendry realizes it and tries to push the ref out of the way. Cardona goes low, takes control, hits the reboot, goes for a second reboot, but Hendry catches it. And then they start brawling on the outside again, brings it back inside. There's a really nice fall away slam that Joe Hendry just tosses Matt Cardona with. I thought that looked really good. That was right before that segment, actually. That's my mistake. And then Matt Cardona takes control again, hits another radio silence. And you think, okay, he's going to win. Nope, kicks out at 2 again. Then you see Brian Myers rush out there. He goes, grabs the title, throws it in the ring to distract the ref. The ref grabs it. And again, he just, I don't know what he's doing, but the ref just goes in the corner with it and just stands there for like a minute trying to like, give it to somebody and have a conversation, I guess, because Brian Myers gets in the corner. He starts hyping himself up. He's pumping himself up for the roster cut. Goes, hits the roster cut, hits Matt Cardona with it as Joe Hendry ducks it. Then Brian Myers gets thrown out of the ring by Joe Hendry. Hendry hits the standing ovation for the win, and Matt Cardona has lost his night. Can't get any worse than this, Angelo, can it? Yeah. Unfortunately for Matt Cardona, it does as Moose comes out. Moose gets ready for the spear. Joe Hendry moves out of the way of this as well. And he nails Matt Cardona with the spear. Then Joe Hendry gets Moose out of there.
That's it, right?
Yeah, it seems like it is. But, oh, no. Joe Hendry has a mic. Joe Hendry says, I thought my music would be playing. I thought, things couldn't get any better for me. But, I'll send the fans home happy. Let's give everybody a chance to hear Matt Cardona's new song, Edge's Bitch, one more time. And the show goes off the air with Edge's Bitch playing as the crowd chants along and Matt Cardona looking distraught, upset. Things cannot get any worse for this man. And as me and Angelo talked about at the beginning, before we started this show, I thought this was going to be Matt Cardona grabbing a mic and says, you know what? I quit. And just leave, disappear into the sunset. And he could come back as a surprise somewhere down the line. But no, that's not what we got. It just ends with everybody chanting Edge's bitch and him looking more and more upset.
Yeah, I mean, it was possible they booked it this way, just with the possibility he was going to WWE. And, now they won't really, follow through with it because he's not going anywhere. So,
yeah.
I
mean, could be, or I feel like they probably knew he wasn't at this point because these were taped the 21st and 22nd, right. I believe. And he had already started announcing his bookings all the way till Mania weekend. Basically, he has his NWA World Title shot match coming up in the middle of February.
That's
so
true.
maybe it's giving him time so he can focus on NWA for a bit. Finish up his feud with Tyrus and Bully Ray. Which, Jesus Christ,
Bully Ray.
Oh yeah, so Bully Ray's in NWA. And apparently Tyrus and him, I follow Matt Cardona on social media because he's entertaining, and he announced that their world title match has been announced, that there's no seconds, nobody else is allowed at ringside, but NWA has made a one caveat that Bully Ray is allowed to be special guest commentator for the match.
That's terrible.
And Matt Cardona says he's getting screwed because Tyrus technically has a second now. He's just at the commentator's table instead. So I don't watch NWA. I don't follow it. But I guess Tyrus and Bully Ray are a thing. And that just sounds like the worst grouping of people as possible. That's the team of heat.
It's a lot of heat. Too much heat.
Oh, so much heat. So much heat. Oh. The cheap heat they must on
Fox News, it must be through the roof.
And busted open. They'll just they'll be on things at the same time.
Getting that heat.
Nonstop heat.
Funky's on a roll.
Oh. Anyway, with that being said, Angelo, how'd you like this episode?
I would give this a thumbs up because it filled a lot of the holes that I felt were unfilled coming out of last week's episode, with the promo package for Rich Swann, kind of giving a little more story for Crazy Steve, bringing in a new tag team to face the K. I think there was a lot of things that were left unanswered last week that we got good clarity with this week, and it helped a lot leading into the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, I agree. I'd also give it a thumbs up. I thought that even the matches that we weren't too excited for, we weren't excited for PCO versus Shera originally, but
right,
it was a good match. Dango and Brian Myers, we were kind of why are these two guys going to be competing for a shot at a world title in 2023? But they had a good match. Again, the story stuff led to better understanding of matches, but also the addition of some good matches for No Surrender, Deanna versus Giselle, Time Machine versus Bullet Club. So these all made sense. The Crazy Steve mind games on Trey continue, and I'm still sticking with my gut that this is going to be how they bring back the Rascals, or the new Rascals, whatever we want to call them, to kind of overthrow the odds of
Tariq and Crazy Steve.
Yeah, have three guys instead of just one.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so we'll see. But I thought this was another good episode coming off of last week's kind of meh episode. I thought this was a good episode. Thumbs up all around.
Yeah. It's interesting to mention. We should mention that MJF went to bat for one of the Rascals.
Yeah. So if anybody doesn't know, last year, MSK, the former Rascals in Impact, were in NXT. Zach Wentz, in NXT, was known as Nash Carter. Was married to Kimber Lee, former Impact competitor. They were going through a divorce. She started claiming abuse. Then she took back the abuse, saying it wasn't real. It didn't happen. Then she claimed it was happening and that she just didn't want to get him in trouble. Then she started posting pictures of him in unflattering situations, and then a picture from, as numerous people had said, over a decade ago, of him shaving his mustache into a Hitler mustache, and her claiming that he's anti-Semitic, all this stuff. MJF went to bat for him, saying that he's never been anti-Semitic to him, that he is one of the nicest guys possible. He's really good for wrestling. People need to start booking this guy again and stop, canceling him because of things that have been proven to be false and because of a picture that he did when he was much younger and much more immature. Talked about how, when MJF was starting through wrestling and traveling the country, he was able to spend nights on his couch, all this stuff. So yeah, just hope the situation sounds messy as hell.
Yeah,
I'm not
it's
gonna get into
unfortunate.
it.
No, we don't need to. But I just thought it was interesting
but
to say MJF crossing the, company lines.
Yes.
To say no, book this man.
Yeah, and then afterwards, Wesley, his partner in MSK, his partner in the Rascals, posted a solidarity thing with the Burberry scarves, saying thank you MJF and all this stuff. So it seems like more people are starting to book him again. Callahan's promotion, Wrestling Revolver, has announced that the Rascals will be challenging Ace Austin and Chris Bay for their tag titles next month, I believe, or in March, one of the two. Either this month or in March, I forget. So it does seem like some people are starting to book them again. But yeah, I think it will be telling at No Surrender, because I do think that's going to be I think the Rascals will show back up. It won't be Wesley, obviously, since he's still in NXT as a champion. But I think the new Rascals that they have on the indies of Myron Reed, Zachary Wentz, and Trey Miguel will be reuniting sooner rather than later, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense for that to happen.
Yeah. So with that, thank you guys for checking us out, listening. We will be back probably next week. And yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
It was a beautiful Impact episode. And Johnny Swinger, you give me reason to live.
I guess this is the final episode before the Super Bowl, Angelo. Who you got winning?
The Jets? No, the Chiefs.
Okay.
I think the Chiefs will win, and then I will probably not be alive when people hear this and realize I live in Philadelphia. So, how about you, Ryan?
I am going for the Eagles. I don't know.
No, there's some magic to it. I think the there's a good story, and they're a great team, but I think they get outplayed by the legendary coach Reed and the legendary quarterback of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I'm just tired of hearing my dad claim that the Eagles are still wrong for firing Andy Reid, and that they'd be better off with him still at the helm. Just because if the Eagles beat Andy Reid and the Chiefs, then are they really in a worse spot than they were when they fired Andy Reid?
No,
they've won 2 Super Bowls to his 1.
Yeah,
so,
no. There's a lot of Philly fandom feels a lot of different ways about this. Definitely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I feel like this is a good story. The script writers did well this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can't wait for the script for 2023, 2024 NFL season.
Yeah, I'm sure Pat Mahomes is really happy to have scripted in a high ankle sprain.
Yeah, and the random Chiefs players getting sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, so tune in next week for another episode of the Impact Power Hour. And yeah, talk to you next week.
Thanks for listening.
Bye.